What's going on, everyone? I am ZippingMeteor. Welcome to Zipp Plays, a series where I play any games and talk about whatever I feel like. Today we'll be taking a look at The Last Tinker City of Colors. Let's go ahead and look at the options menu real quick. You got a bunch of different resolution settings, including one for a strange hertz monitor. You can change your frames per second from 60 to 30 if your computer is not capable of handling 60. You got brightness settings, which I don't really use. Texture quality, shadow quality, view distance, post effects quality, water reflections, ambient occlusion, anisotropic filtering, colorblind mode, which is great to see in a game that is so focused on color as this one is. AA and full screen on or off. I didn't actually change anything, so no point in saying yes. Or no point in saying no. For the audio settings, you have stereo and 2 surround sound settings, as well as separate sliders for all of them. Controls. I'm playing with the controller, so you're not going to see much, but let's see, can things be rebound? No, controls cannot be rebound, at least not with a controller. Controller is recommended for this game. It says so right in the loading sequence. Now, I've played this for, I don't know, roughly an hour and 15, hour and 30 minutes. I've also listened to the entire soundtrack at work, so I'm going to be mentioning it at least a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and load my game. I'm going to go ahead and load it up from a second point in the game just to show off the visuals a little bit. Because after about an hour into the game, it starts to get, well, bleak. You play as this character on your left, Koru. He's kind of he lives on the outside of the cities, so he is kind of colored in a bunch of different colors instead of one, like most of the citizens of the city. He is kind of a kid, but he's clearly designed to look like a monkey. As soon as this guy gets out of my way, I'll start talking about the game. Okay, it is... City of Colors is kind of a 3D platformer, much in the same way as, say, Banjo-Kazooie or Conker or Spyro used to be. However, it doesn't handle platforming in the same way as those games. What I mean by that is, this game has no jump button. Instead, it handles platforming much in the same way as Assassin's Creed, meaning it's pretty much all tied to the run button. Personally, I don't like this. It doesn't work all the time. Like, there's one point early on in the game where you have to drop down from one platform onto another, and it's supposed to automatically jump when you get to the edge. However, a lot of times it doesn't, sending you into the water. Most of the time it does work, however, when it doesn't, it is quite frustrating. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I play platforming games, a lot of times I will just jump. I'll jump around to actually traverse the world. It's usually faster, and it's more fun. This game doesn't really allow that, though, so you just have to deal with the Assassin's Creed style of platforming instead. Now, at some point in the game, you will come across these little rails, which is really just a way of traversing from long distances. They're kind of cool, but a bit unnecessary. The game does feature kind of a an Assassin's Creed style of, or not Assassin's Creed, but kind of an Arkham form of combat. You can chain your attacks together from rather long distances away, but the combat itself, at least early on, is simplistic at best. Like, here, let me show you the longest true combo you can do. Okay, I guess it doesn't actually show you the longest one unless you're fighting something. It's only a couple attacks. It's not much. But I don't know, it's simple, and I get that the game is kind of geared more towards kids, but it could be a little deeper. Later on, you do gain a few new abilities through the spirits of the game. For example, Red will give you some sort of power using the B button. Eventually you'll get the green spirit and the blue spirit as well, which will bind attacks to A and X respectively. But ultimately the combat is kind of simple. Not necessarily a bad thing. You don't need every game to be real difficult, but a little bit more complexity would have been nice. Now you'll notice right off the bat that the dialogue in this game is handled much in the same way as, say, Banjo-Kazooie. The characters make random grunts and grumbling noises, and the dialogue is actually handled through little speech bubbles. Speech bubbles, though, can be a bit of a problem. I'm going to tell you right now, if you happen to see random cuts in this video, it's because people keep making noise, and I'm having to edit this video in ways that I don't particularly like. But unfortunately, I can't really avoid it at this time. I can't control other people. But as I was saying, the dialogue boxes can get in the way at times. Because they're actually 3D. They're sitting in the world in three-dimensional space, which is annoying to say the least. Let me see if this guy has anything to say, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. It's not showing up quite as much here, but usually the dialogue boxes are stationary. This one's rotating with the world, but when they're stationary, if you're running past them, then whatever's on them can be missed if you're not in the right angle. Not so much a problem in cutscenes, but usually it is a problem during the normal gameplay. I'm just gonna skip this part real quick. It's just a fighting tutorial. I guess I can show you the actual combat. I mentioned that the combat is relatively simple, but it's kind of similar to the Arkham games. When I say it's similar to Arkham, I mean you can bounce around pretty well from character to character. But at least early on, the number of moves you can do is really limited. You're seeing the entire combat as it happens right now. Eventually you do get different types of punches, but I haven't reached that point. I've only gotten the red one, and here, I'm gonna go ahead and load up a different point of the game and show you what I mean. We will, let's see. Let's go ahead and load up this one. If I could skip the cutscene, I would. But this will allow me to show you a new point in the game. At least occasionally there may be a few stealth segments where you have to avoid the lights of the guards and get from point A to point B. Yeah, wow, yeah, blah, blah, blah. All the different colors of characters have different ways of speaking. Of course, I can't actually show you what I'm wanting to show you. So excuse me for one moment while I load up a different point in the game. Alright, let's just go ahead and load up the red district level. This may be far enough, I'm not real sure. Now the world is split up into 4 main districts. There's the red district, the blue district, and the green district. And outside of those is where your main character is actually from. This still isn't far enough. Should have just went straight to the end. I'll just go ahead and tell you each spirit, I believe, has their own unique power. The red one has kind of a red projectile which can attack enemies, but it can't destroy boxes and things like that. I don't know what green and blue have, but that's kind of the idea. Each one gives you different powers. Now let's go ahead and let's go straight to the end. Now I have listened to this entire soundtrack, so I'll tell you that parts of it feel like The Legend of Zelda. Other parts of it feel out of place, like they just don't belong in this game. And here's what I was talking about with the color. Can't destroy boxes, but it can be used against these guys. Not very powerful. But it's not meant to be terribly complex. I guess it is more targeted towards kids than anything. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's still a fun game. It's still enjoyable to play. Let's go ahead and talk about the game visuals. Typically, the world is quite colorful. Even happy at times if you notice the sun in the background. However, the game story is that the world is being kind of taken over by this white and gray blob stuff. It's called bleakness. It takes the color out of the world and turns the inhabitants to, well, stone. However, since your character is a tinker, he can gain the power of the color spirits, and by punching the inhabitants can bring them back from their petrified state. As long as they're not still embedded in the bleakness like this guy. I can punch him, he'll come back, and he'll change poses. So, there's that. The bleakness is something that can hurt you. It'll slowly drain your actual color away until it kills you. But you'll just respawn back at one of these little flower checkpoint things. Now the music, like I was saying, some of it does feel like The Legend of Zelda. However, a lot of it really doesn't fit the mood of the game. You'll notice right now there is no music playing at all. Even though there could be something playing and would greatly help. And some of it comes back during combat, but it's still not... Even when it's playing, it just doesn't fit, in my opinion. It doesn't seem to fit the mood of the game. Which, all good music, I believe, should fit the mood of the game that it's in at any given point. But it shouldn't be too terribly noticed. If you can notice the music, then it's either too loud or it doesn't fit, which is kind of what this is like. Here's a map of the whole city. It's not to say that the music's bad. I mean, I've listened to the whole thing. It's pretty good, in my opinion, but it just doesn't really fit the mood of the game most of the time. Really bring the color back to this world. There's the red spirit I was talking about that gave me this power. And now we've brought the color back to the red city. At least temporarily. And along with it came the actual music. Bring these guys back. Here's one of those little speech bubbles I was mentioning earlier. They're stationary, but they're 3D, so if you're in the wrong spot, you can't read what it says. Or parts of it could even be cut off by the screen itself. It can be problematic at some points. Get this little collectible while I see it. Nice, your fists spray a red color. Yeah, when I punch you, your yellow sections turn red, which is kind of weird. Overall, I have to say that I'm really enjoying this game. Even though the music doesn't seem to fit, the platforming is kind of weird, and combat is simplistic. If you liked like Banjo-Kazooie games like that, you'll probably enjoy this game, as long as you're not wanting for anything spectacular. It doesn't really do anything new. The story doesn't really feel particularly deep. And combat certainly isn't anything special, but it does something that most games these days don't do. It uses color. The whole world is colorful in this. The character is ridiculous looking, but unique. And too many games these days are bleak, gray, and, well, come to think of it, that's probably why the game's story is like it is. There's so much bleakness in games these days that sometimes you just need a game that is overly colorful. It's a fun little game. I don't know yet if it's worth the price tag that it's asking for, which is, I think, $19.99, but if you're like me and you like the 3D platformers and collectible kind of games like Banjo-Kazooie and games in a similar nature, you'll probably enjoy this game just because you're nostalgic for that genre to be revived. I mean, most game publishers these days have kind of abandoned this genre. Unless you want to count the Super Mario Galaxy games, it's just not a genre you see too much these days. Apart from indie developers. Like, the only two new ones that I can think of are Hat in Time and Lobo Destroyo, two games that were funded through Kickstarter. But if you're looking for a relatively cheap 3D platformer, and you don't mind the lack of a jump button, this could be a game that you would enjoy. I do warn you guys though, because of the unusual art style and the massive amount of color, after say about an hour of playing this, it could be, you know, a little taxing on the eyes, a little straining. It was for me at least. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump to another part of the game real quick just to show you a little bit different kind of art style. Let's see, where do we want to go? There are puzzles in this game, however, I haven't actually encountered too many. There is one in the pictures level right there that I'm on, but it's pretty simple. I'm not going to spoil the puzzles. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show you the race level. I'll tell you right now, you can't win this race, but it's a good point to show you the different colors of the game. It's easily one of the most colorful games I've ever seen. I'm gonna go this way. You can't win anyway, so no point in trying. So, yeah guys, this is The Last Tinker, City of Color. A take at the old school collectible, or collectathon 3D platformer game. Bit of Assassin's Creed with the platforming, bit of Zelda with the music, bit of Banjo-Kazooie and various other games in the style of game, with a little bit of Arkham thrown in for the combat. Definitely a unique game, definitely one people should check out if they're a fan of the 3D platformer genre. Go check it out guys, it is available on Steam right now. Thanks for watching everyone. If you like this video, please consider clicking the like button. If you like any of the content I make, please consider subscribing to my channel. I do mostly early build Let's Plays, but eventually I will be moving on to a few new things. Thanks for watching everyone, I am ZippingMeteor, and I will see you next time.